The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's Paul Greenberg here from the NORA Network with another weekly Wednesday webcast. I'm a big fan of alliteration, as some of the guests on our panelists would know today. So looking forward to a very engaging and great conversation. I would like to start off by thanking Longtail UX and Andreas Dzumla, who will be on one of our panelists today, and lovely to be speaking with with business partner and good mate Mike Rosenbaum, who's doing amazing things with Spacer. So I think I'll hand over, gentlemen, to you. Let's see who's been chatting today. We can flick to the next slide. Terrific. Andreas, tell us a little bit about yourself, a bit about Longtail UX, and then we can hand over to Mike and get on with the program.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And thanks, Mike, for joining. So my background is I worked at Google back in the day in Europe, but working very closely with the US on the product side. There I was involved in launching the first mobile AdWords editor, so like it's a while ago. And then how Longtail UX basically came to life was from my experience at Google, then later at the vertical search engine in Europe. And also agency experience, realizing how important the long tail is for businesses, but also how hard it is actually to make it work both on the paid search side, but also on the organic search side. And then what we find is with my co-founder and business partner Will Santo, we developed this solution to make it much easier to target the long tail of search and create a better user experience. And with me today also, not on the slide here, and apologies for that, from Longtail UX is Mark Olofsson, our head of sales, who will help me throughout the presentation, will interrupt me with any questions or if I get too far down the technical track somewhere. And and Mike, obviously, Mike Rosenbaum, who is one of our clients and also good friend over the years now. And Mike, over to you if you want to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Andreas and Paul. Thanks for having me on the panel, and good morning, everyone. So I'm Mike Rosenbaum. I'm one of the founders of Spacer, online marketplace for sharing of all types of space, predominantly storage and parking, both here in Australia and in the US, and previously spent about a decade in e-commerce with Deals Direct, and also involved with a bunch of other sharing economy platforms like Car Next Door for peer-to-peer car sharing, Mad Paws for peer-to-peer pet sitting, and a bunch of others. And been a client of Andreas for, I guess, almost 3 years now. And happy to sort of share some of our experiences throughout the panel.
Fantastic. And Andreas, thanks for reminding me that indeed we do. This is an interactive webcast. We look forward to receiving your questions via the chat box. And in the background, we've got Mark Olofsson, as Andreas said, from Longtail UX, and Brittany Franklin of NORA, making sure the plane's flying well. So back to you, Andreas, and look forward to hearing more.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the search channel. And while there's probably lots of other channels at the moment that are probably more on the news or top of mind, like social, and then you have programmatic. Search, good old search still is responsible for more than half of total e-commerce revenue worldwide. So as a typical e-commerce business, whether it's retail or travel or other verticals, more than half of your revenue would be driven by search, be it SEO, meaning organic search. These are these results below the ads, or paid search, SEM, which are the different ad formats in Google, and that's growing at 13% year on year over the last years, and also projected to do the same over the coming years. So it's a very important channel, and that's also why businesses spend $100 billion per year US on ads, on clicks with Google, and well, that's why Google is one of the most valuable companies on the planet too. With this though, there's 3 big unsolved problems still remaining, and they've sort of always been there. The first one is landing page relevance. And so we're going to talk about the first 2 problems mainly today. So the first one is landing page relevance. If you pay for clicks, and if you pay that much money, you want to make very sure that you actually, that when users click on an ad, that they land on a landing page that has all the relevant information. Because if they don't, obviously your conversion rates are lower, and your ROI on those clicks and on this big spends is well, just not as good. The second one is measuring ROI, return on investment, for SEO. I only put up the $100 billion figure there because that's what we know, what is spent. For SEO is a bit more murky. Lots of money is spent on, well, there's still link building, hopefully Whitehead nowadays, or there's obviously lots of investments in websites. Sometimes even replatforming somehow goes into SEO because you hope to rank better for organic search results later. But you never really know the ROI there. You spend, but you can't just measure it just like paid search, and that's a problem. And the third one, and this probably goes throughout the presentation, is search engines have advanced a lot. So they understand search intent, there's machine learning, AI, all of that. I mean, Google's algorithm constantly updates, but websites actually haven't changed that much in the last 20 years. From design, yes. From functionality, backend functionality, but in terms of understanding user intent and how information is presented, actually they haven't changed that much, and that's a challenge. We're going to go into that. From your perspective, sorry I didn't say that. Thanks everyone for joining this morning. From a business perspective, there's really only one problem. You just don't want to be on page 2 or below because, well, no one goes there, and you're just not relevant. So what's the long tail of search, and why are we actually called Longtail UX, or Longtail User Experience? When you look at different types of searches and how users search, you can divide them into like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 word and more word combinations. And while the 1 and 2 word combinations individually have a high search volume, like cameras, TVs, whatever you think of, like computers, those, first of all, they don't actually convert as well because they're quite generic, and people still actually start searching, like start looking for something and doing research. But then there's those 4 or 5 word combinations that individually don't actually have that much search volume, but overall make up more than 50 to 70% of all searches. So if you want to remember one thing about what the long tail of search is, it's how the majority of your users search for your products or services. And the good thing about these is that they're more likely to convert because users know much more specific what they want. They're further down in the purchase funnel. You have lower SEO competition because these are very specific terms, and there's not that many pages that actually address those specific keywords. And you also on Google Ads, you pay a lower cost per click because also you have less competition. So that's the good news. The not so good news, or where it gets complicated, is what that means for landing pages. And so I mentioned landing page relevance as one of the challenges in search. Because you have all those many combinations, you just don't have as many that many pages on your website to always answer those questions, those searches perfectly. So if a user then lands on a page and still has to filter, scroll, refine, use your on-site search, they're more likely to bounce, meaning, well, just land on the page, don't find what they're looking for and go back, and less likely to convert. And especially because nowadays everyone is so used to instant gratification and that you find everything really, really fast. So just same as your page load times, once the page is loaded, and you don't see what you were looking for, you are actually more likely to refine your search and then click on another ad on another result than actually going into the site. And then that's actually a problem that's that's increasing because with voice search being by definition long tail, because when you talk to your phone, you ask longer questions, you search with more like longer phrases, and voice search is really on the rise. It's already 25% of mobile search, and it's expected to be 50% of total global search by 2020. These are numbers from Google. So what if someone could automate landing pages then and bring websites into the 21st century of AI and of machine learning? I'm going to do a quick demo here. So this is just one one example. You're looking for a fridge. You have already Electrolux, Electrodomestic, other products, and you really like the brand, and you want 2 doors because you have a large family, or you have the space. Now, your typical experience on shopping ads is, and I love this example. So in here, this is your shopping ads. You click on the shopping ad. And David Jones, well, high quality, the brands. Still, that's a bit expensive, although it's what you're looking for, right? But you actually want to see more. You want to see that if there are more. And so, okay, so where are the other fridges on this page, on this website? If you know about websites, here's the breadcrumb. You go one level back, and then, oh my God, there's not even fridges. Like, the only fridge you see now suddenly is a Samsung. You go to Samsung, and then, well, you have everything Samsung. Where's my Electrolux? So it's really hard to find the next one. Then you go back and click onto the next, etc., etc. So while this is a very easy way to target your audience and with your product feed, and then Google finds the keywords for those products, every time you click, you only ever find one product. And that's quite frustrating. Here you actually have the next one. But when you click on this, I made David Jones pay again. Sorry for that. Yeah, but they're actually not connected. So what we've developed is this here, this type of ad and landing pages. We know for our client Seconds World, there's 3 fridges available in Sydney, like 3 Electrolux French door fridges, and the lowest price is $1,999. You click on this and you land directly on the landing page. First of all, completely different user experience. You even have related ones, other 2-door fridges. It's all there for you, right? It's like going into a shop, and the difference in experience, you go to David Jones and ask, oh, I want to have a Electrolux French door fridge, and they say, hey, our fridge section is just over there, or here's one fridge, and you say, well, where are the others? Or go back to the entrance and ask again. And in here, you went into the store, and they basically, so here are all the relevant ones. I just brought them together for you, and they're all here in front of you. This is so important because this is not only working for one keyword, it's working for pretty much all of them. I have to go in here. So this is the client. This is how it's set up. So we get the product feed. From the product feed, our system actually identifies all the relevant combinations. All of them, every one of those combinations becomes an ad group. They're all grouped together as a campaign. Our system checks how many exact matching products are there every time the product feed updates. So in this case, like those ad groups will be paused. These ad groups will be live. And everything is automated. So not only is it as automated as your shopping ads, it's also it's also much more relevant, obviously. And this is another example. Lockup garage for rent in Melbourne. I mean, this is not a retail now, but obviously because Mike is on the call. And so this is an example for Spacer or for Parkhound, which is the same business. No, actually, well, Spacer now owns Parkhound. And when you click on this ad, it's the same. You find the lockup garages for rent directly in Melbourne. So it's much more relevant than yeah.
Mike, maybe I can bring you in here and just ask how
Sure.
you've seen this affect the way you guys do things.
Yeah, look, it's been a really great way for us to scale out both our SEO and our paid search in terms of targeting the long tail and allowing our customers to land on a page like Andreas has just shown with multiple search results that are relevant to that user rather than just taking them to one direct, very deep link, say a listing page, which might have been how we did it in the past, or taking them to a more broader match search. So it's sort of the perfect the perfect landing page, I suppose. So what it's done is it's helped us reduce our cost per clicks and increase our conversions. So and it's all done programmatically via the Longtail system.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mike.
So these are just 2 examples. There's many more. But so what it does is you can identify the most relevant keywords, build landing pages at scale, and those integrate automatically in the website without any changes to the existing structure. That's actually quite important, because every time you introduce something new and make changes to the existing website structure, there's an upside, but there can also be a downside. So that doesn't happen here. There's only upside. And then it creates ad copies and the whole search campaigns, and injects into the Google Ads account. And that's so powerful that actually Google just now has started actually partnering with us. And so we're going to do a joint proof of concept on a very large retailer in Australia, because they're very impressed by this, and they actually don't have a way of automating text ads the way we do it. And this is really probably the most important slide. When you think about search in general, always think about, you have to create like a win-win for everyone. For the users, with better matching results. Obviously for your business it has to work because you pay for it, but it also has to work for Google. And then that's probably even more important for SEO. Whatever you do, you have to think from those three angles. And here's just a case study for Seconds World. This doesn't deliver 20-30% uplifts. It delivers crazy uplifts, and they're all measurable within Web Analytics. And that's what really impressed Google and our other clients at the moment. So that was paid search. Any questions on paid search so far?
No questions at this stage.
Okay. Paid search is sort of the easy part, and that slide actually speaks to it, because paid search is very measurable. You pay for a click, you know what keywords you're targeting, you can measure the ROI on your keywords. So paid search is always, but not very controversial, I would say, not anymore. So organic search, or SEO, search engine optimization, is very, very different from that. And that's interesting, because it's the same channel. When you think about it's Google, people search on Google, and for most of the users, whether they click on an ad or an organic results, they don't care. For them, there's no difference. You have some other users who actually know what ads are, and they actually don't like ads, so they actually click more on organic, on the normal results, and they don't actually like to click on ads. You still have those as well. But we're talking about the same type of users and the same type of traffic. Now, when you look at how a typical business, pretty much everyone splits their budgets between search engine marketing, like paying for ads, and search engine optimization, investing in your website and your link profile to rank well below the ads. There's a massive gap in investment. And that's even more mind-blowing when you think about that SEM is a very short-term investment, because you pay for a click, and the moment you stop paying, the traffic is gone. Whereas for SEO, when you invest in your website and in your general optimization for organic search of your website, whether that's content creation, whether that's link building, whether that's structural website changes, it's actually a long-term investment. If you stop spending, it still actually lives on, and then maybe your competitors catch up over time. So it's completely counterintuitive when you look at it from that angle. When you look at it from the angle of ROI and measurability of ROI, it makes perfect sense, of course. And that's the biggest challenge. As a CMO, you can justify $1 million, even $10 million a month, some businesses ad spend. You can't justify the same investment in SEO, because then if anyone asks you what's your ROI, you can't measure. It's so hard. Any change you make, it takes months for it to take effect, and you can really never actually say, well, I did this, that happened, and that's my ROI on this new content or on this structural change on the website. So that's a challenge. Now, what if you could manage SEO like SEM? If you could measure keyword level ROI, if you could make decisions at keyword level based on data, that would be a massive game changer. And that's really what we have developed. It doesn't replace your existing SEO, but it gives you an area for search engine optimization where you can target long-tail keywords in a much more scientific way, in the same way as you would manage paid search. So you can generate ROI insights at keyword level, optimize your site based on ROI data, achieve higher return on investment. But what does it actually mean? How does that look like? It's a very similar concept, and this is one example. That's not even long tail in the definition, although you could. It's long tail by search intent, really. Like, it's quite specific, but this is a 3-word combination. And so here our client Coden didn't have pages for TV sizes. That's just how their website is structured. And so we help them. Our system automatically creates landing pages on their website. And here you see, like for example, 32-inch LED TV. It brings all the most relevant products together on the site, on that page. And when you look here on the side, they just don't have that navigation. So what our system can do is filling gaps and identifying keywords where you currently don't have very relevant content. And if you don't have that relevant content, if you don't have that page, Google can't even know that you're relevant. So these pages are generated by our system, automatically integrated within the website. And because then they all have a specific URL structure, you can measure the new traffic and the new revenue coming in from those pages. So which makes the whole system very scientific. So when you go in here, and I just go into another client, because they're, I don't know, let's just take this one here. So that's where we have Google Analytics integrated directly into the system. Here you have all the keywords, and then you can basically look at the keywords and, sorry, you can look at 30-day revenue at keyword level. Takes a while to load because there's a few pages. And that's actually an interesting example because we only manage, for example, in this case, we only manage 24,000 landing pages for them. They have 1 million pages indexed in Google. So it's a very tiny percentage, 2.5% of the total website pages are managed, and we generate more than $2 million in revenue for, in this case, for Grace Online every month. It's all measurable, and we make decisions based on keywords. There's other examples. This one I like a lot as well, because it shows you also that you can create a really amazing user experience. So this is Odeur Beauty. You click on that, and it brings together the best lightweight foundation products. And how do we dare to say this is best lightweight foundations? So how do we justify targeting best keyword combinations here? Is because first of all, our algorithm looks at like what are the lightweight foundations, and then reorders them based on star ratings, based on user ratings. So you actually have a genuinely like a good user experience, but you can do this at scale. Yeah, and then there's more examples. Sorry.
Andreas, just on
the lockup graphs. Yes.
On the user ratings, just a
yes.
question. Often the user ratings are not part of the website structure. How do you combine that information?
Yeah, so we don't only work like we plug something in and then something is automated. So we actually, it's really like a consultative approach. So we work with clients and say, okay, what content do you have available? And whether you use it in certain ways or not, we just look at like all the available content. And very often we actually have to set up different feeds, one for the product, another one for ratings, and then bring them together. And then our templates can actually show content combined in a way the existing CMS and the existing website can't do. So that's a good question. So we look at all the available content and then try to bring them together in one template on the one page to create this perfect user experience, even if on the existing website sometimes they don't live together. Yeah.
And just maybe to bring Mike in at this point. Mike, have you found that that's something that's been important to you with regards to things like location information, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, our business is a hyper local one, so we're trying to match people who need, parking or storage at a suburb level, or sometimes even at a block level, like a block within a street. So being able to, programmatically create those landing pages is super valuable to us, because to do that manually would just require a massive amount of effort.
Yeah, Spacer is actually, I do remember, Mike, that was a very interesting challenge as well, because Australia has a very, I'm German, so we have, when you come from another country, like there's different ways of how you organize your location hierarchy. But in Australia, Sydney is, for example, is postcode 2000, right? And the moment you go outside, it has another name. But when someone searches for something in Sydney, they don't mean postcode 2000. They mean like the whole thing, like inner Sydney or whatever it is. And so we actually had, in that case for Spacer, we had to create this hierarchy, this in-between hierarchy, grouping things together, like eastern suburbs or Melbourne and these things. So yeah, so we do that as well. So we always try to find like a solution, and then work together, obviously, with the client or with the agencies.
And Andreas, I would imagine that plays quite well into retailers who have sort of click and collect type functionality on their site.
Yes, yes. That's very important. If you have click and collect and if you have lots of locations, users do search for location combinations. For SEO, you have to be a little bit careful because you don't want to create all your 1,000 keyword combinations times your 400 locations in the country. That creates thin content but for paid search, for example, you definitely want to have a landing page that shows your results and your nearest store, for example. It makes perfect sense. Yes.
Thanks, guys. For questions at this stage.
Yeah, and this is really, we're creating an almost unfair advantage in search. It's not unfair because it creates a better user experience, and that's what it's all about. But they're big uplifts, and they're all uplifts you can measure in client analytics. And obviously, while we're promoting here our system and what we do, but the general idea of figuring out how your users search for your products, and then figure out what's the website structure that needs to support that. That's always a good thing to do. The only thing in our case, our system makes it easy to do it and doesn't interfere with your existing website architecture. But that's probably generally when you consider 50% of your revenue comes from search, you should really look at the search queries and how people understand and search for your products. Yeah, and don't take our words for it. Ask our clients, and the numbers really speak for us. So here's just a few. Well, as you can also see, it grows over time because you keep optimizing the SEO keyword list. You see what works. You don't use the ones that don't work, and then instead you expand on the ones that do work. You find pockets of keywords where then you say, okay, for this works really well, but we need more content support to support that. So it's like a whole strategic approach. And our system makes, I always like to say, it makes it easy, or makes it cheaper to fail. So if you test the keyword and it doesn't work, that's fine. You don't have to go to your content team and then go to your IT and then create that and then realize 3 months later it doesn't work. In our case, it's very easy to do that and see also what works. Yeah, I won't go into that too much, but this is going to be shared afterwards. You can read that. So it's really for SEM, it's about inventory-driven search campaign automation with one-to-one landing pages for the keywords. That's important. And then that creates a better user experience. But it creates also other effects, like you get the perfect quality score because your keyword matches the ad matches the landing page. You get a quality score of 10 for every keyword with Google Ads. That lowers your cost per click in the ad auction. So you save double. And on the SEO side, it's really about making things measurable, reducing your cost to fail in SEO, and making it much more scientific, actually, to test keywords, to test assumptions on what you think would work, and to not interfere with your existing website architecture, which is quite important. But also not being limited by your existing CMS when it comes to what you want to do on those landing pages. Yeah, and then we have growing number of clients across a growing number of verticals and countries. And yeah, we're very fortunate to be supported by great investors, and we're expanding quite a lot at the moment. But obviously Australia is our core market still. We're all based here. We're based in Balmain in Sydney with the entire dev team and the support team. And yeah.
Mike, just a last question for you, Mike, before I hand back to Paul. One of the questions that's often asked in situations like this, where you're automating pages or automating content, is what are the things to look out for from a Google perspective? Often questions are asked about duplicate content when it comes to Google, algorithm changes. Mike, you've been a customer of Longtail UX for a long time. Have you faced any of these challenges? Can you give us any insight on that?
Yeah, so Andreas and the team, that was one of the first questions that we asked, and Andreas, probably the best one to answer it. But certainly, we haven't seen any negative impact at all. We've only seen more and more pages across our site being indexed by Google since we've implemented Longtail. So I believe we've got about 3,000 pages or keywords indexed for Longtail. We've got about 30,000 across Spacer today, so it's about 10%, but they're very valuable pages because they're so targeted. Yeah, so Andreas, maybe you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I mean, the one thing I can always say is I worked at Google. I worked with search quality engineers. I worked with the guy. They are not only extremely intelligent and good, and there are thousands of them. We just never try to outsmart them because it doesn't work. So it's really all about user experience. It's all about scale as well. So you have to be careful. You can't just launch 10,000s of pages if you don't have the content to support it, and that's really important. So we always, with every client we work with, we always say, okay, this is your existing content. These are your existing number of pages. This is the limit what we can do in terms of number of pages. But then we don't even need that many because we don't see them as, well, we see them as keyword slots in some way. Like if you can manage 3,000 pages, that doesn't mean you manage the same 3,000 pages and keywords over like forever. On a monthly basis, you optimize that. So you have there's so much upside from monthly optimization and from monthly like retargeting for those keywords. You don't need that many.
Yep. Andreas, thanks. From my end, that's all the questions from me. I know Paul's got a few questions. I'm just going to hand back to Paul now.
Thanks very much, Mark, and thank you, Andreas and Mike. I think just first a quick commentary more than a question. Such a resonant conversation, certainly getting out amongst our retailers in the NORA network. A lot of them, and mainly on the smaller end, are really struggling with the cost of their digital marketing and doing business. You know, the Google, Facebook, cost. One of them even said to me the other day, and I know no one will take this amiss. We don't want to become a peasant farmer of these mighty marketing platforms. And I guess this is where we have to, as businesses in challenging times, really optimize the long tail, where there's, I was saying to Andreas the other day, there's gold in those hills. Is that a fair sort of general commentary? And perhaps from the both of you, any advice to some of those retailers out there really struggling a little bit under the costs of their marketing?
I think the first thing is always you have to be really good at your analytics, your web analytics and attribution. You just want to measure whatever you invest in. You really want to make sure that you measure your ROI on everything and really well. That's the first thing. And that's a challenge, of course, because that's probably easier when you're a larger business and you have your internal business analytics team. But there's tools like Google Analytics. It's free, and then there's agencies that can help you with that. So that's probably the first thing. The second is, and that point, and that's, I agree with you, especially as a smaller business, you have to find your niche and your audience, and then it exists on Google as well. I would actually turn this around. I would actually argue that without Google, without that platform, search, a lot of businesses wouldn't exist nowadays. Now, of course, all the larger companies now spend more and more on there, and so there's a squeeze, and your cost per click goes up, and there's more competition. But especially online, a lot of the smaller business wouldn't even exist because no one would have heard of them, and you couldn't target the long tail on anything. Like either you have a good store location or you don't. So I think that it actually gives you the opportunity to have a wider reach, and then thinking long tail definitely helps because that's where there's less competition, and you can find your niche. Yeah.
Mike, anything to add? And specifically, just before we grab a question from Dave Neal online, is tell us a little bit more about Spacer. We've had a couple of notes through, a bit about Spacer and Parkhound and how that's going. There might be some clients out there listening in.
Sure. Thanks, Paul. So Spacer and Parkhound are, going well. We're about 3.5 years since launch. We've now got around 50,000 peer-to-peer storage and parking locations right across Australia. And we're now sort of working with a lot of commercial partners as well. So companies like National Storage and commercial parking operators. So essentially we're, a more fulsome marketplace, not just peer-to-peer today, but that's sort of how we started. And just to carry on the comments around long tail, obviously for us it's super important. And some of the other businesses that I sort of see, businesses like Car Next Door, where they've been able to tap into the long tail and search for things like, people looking for a people mover, a 7-seater van in Bondi. They perhaps didn't know that people were even looking for that. But through tools like Longtail, they can sort of capture those insights and go after supply in where there is demand. And we've sort of seen that as well at Spacer.
Brilliant. Sounds amazing journey, Mike. Mark, do you want to pick up the question on the chat box from Dave Neal and maybe put that to Mike and Andreas?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I think it's a question for you, Andreas. Dave is asking, how do you go about generating copy for each of the landing pages that you create?
Yeah. So we take a little bit the Amazon approach there, and basically use the products as copy, because for the search queries we're optimizing for, users don't want to read articles, they don't want to read SEO text, they want to purchase something, they're looking for the specific products. So your product descriptions and titles, that's your most valuable content. There are some exceptions though. Sometimes like we see that there's some gaps, and so yeah, I can maybe just show an example for this one. Sorry, but I think the main answer is use your products. So when I look at this, and maybe we even have a, sorry, which one did I have? Yeah, I mean, when you look at Parkon, for example, well, you actually show them like snippets of, you index snippets of the description, and that's your content. I mean, you could of course also go in there and write content now for the specific word, but then you put it at the bottom, and because no one actually wants to read it. So this is your content. Like when you look at the number of words, that's your content. And the other example I just was showing is this is where sometimes there is no good content, and then we work with the client or with the SEO agency. This is a good example. Here we have the locations, but they didn't actually have a specific text for bicycle shipping before, or for, I don't know, couriers, right? And so then we can pull in content into our template based on trigger keywords, and this is where we work with the client or with their SEO team or agency and say, hey, we need content for this because your descriptions don't actually give us enough, and so then we decide on like what are the topics, like in this case the service categories people are searching for, and then basically solve it that way. So first call is always your existing listings or products. You have to think about how can you showcase the descriptions and the title in a better way. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, we've made good time. I'll make it just around 11:40, and we generally find optimally 40-45 minutes is about right. So if there's no more questions, Britt and Mark, on the back end, I think then a couple of quick housekeeping comments to close. First of all, Britt will send out to the attendees this full deck will go out to you, and also we'll do a quick survey in a couple of minutes. It'll only take a few seconds just to complete a survey so we can get better at what we do. But a big thank you and a big shout out to Andreas Dzumla, CEO and co-founder of Longtail UX, and Mike Rosenbaum, CEO and co-founder of Spacer, and amongst a whole other heap of other businesses in the sharing economy portfolio. Fantastic to hear from both of you. Great insights and learning, and certainly look forward to hearing more about the successes in your businesses ahead. Thanks very much for joining us, Andreas and Mike.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Andreas. Thanks,
fantastic. Everyone. Thanks, Britt. Thanks, Mark. Well, that's right. That's it. Paul Greenberg from the NORA Network, over and out. Thanks for joining us, attendees. A great webcast, and thanks for staying the distance.